Committee of the Whole meeting for May 31st, 2012.
You want me to take the roll?
Roll call, please.
Mayor Ron is absent tonight. Mayor Pro Tem Emery.
Here.
The clerk is here. Trustee Fleming.
Here.
Trustee Klebanow is absent tonight. Trustee Nero.
Here.
Trustee Scott.
Here.
Trustee Seneca.
Here.
Public Works Director and Assistant Manager May.
Here.
Police Chief Mulhern.
Here.
Fire Chief Wise.
Here.
Deputy Police Chief and Deputy Liquor Commissioner Gunther.
Here.
Community Development Director Malik.
Here.
Village Planner Ziegler.
Here.
And Finance Director Barker.
Here. And I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Attorney. I I talked to you, so I knew you were here.
That's our village attorney, John Semina.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Esteemed attorney.
Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item are the village board minutes. Monday night we will consider approving the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held May 17th, 2012, the village board meeting of May 21st, 2012, and from the April 26th, 2012 budget workshop meeting for fiscal year 2012-2013. Any changes or comments on those?
Just one comment. It has that I was Mayor Pro Tem for the Committee of the Whole meeting on the 17th, and it was Trustee Nero.
Ooh. I didn't do that. I was gone.
We have 3 open forum requests tonight. The first is from a gentleman named Thomas R. Mulhern. Oh, that's our Westmont.
Oh, I was going to say, it sounded familiar.
My alter ego.
Regarding it must be cop on the top.
Thank you. Good evening. It's warm out. Leaves are blooming. Flowers are in full bloom, and it must be time for me to go on top of the roof of a Dunkin' Donuts again this year. So this is the 3rd year we're participating in the Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics. Tomorrow morning, starting at 6 o'clock, myself and my esteemed colleague, Deputy Chief Gunther, will be on the roof of Dunkin' Donuts, and Deputy Chief Brenza will be inside where it's nice and dry and warm. But anyway, the goal is to bring attention to the Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics, and more importantly, raise funds for Special Olympics. All the funds that we raise from this event go directly towards Special Olympics in Illinois, and it's the one charity for the police department which support. This is the 3rd year we'll be doing it. Be up there again for the 3rd year, and knock on wood, hopefully no one steals the ladder, so I'm not up there until Saturday. So if you have a chance, anyone, you just stop by between 6 a.m. and 11. If you make a donation, you get a free donut, and then we'll have mugs for sale for coffee as well too. So if you have a chance, stop by and say hi. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next open forum request from Barbara Roos, Angel Haven. Hello again, Barbara.
Hello, I'm back. My name is Barbara Bruce, and I'm one of the directors of Angel Haven Foundation. And what that is we support 200 families in the Appalachian Mountains of Virginia. Throughout the year, citizens in Westmont and the surrounding communities donate items to us. We separate them. We send down to Virginia what they need, and the rest goes into our benefit sale. Now, this benefit sale will be held at the West Hills Community Church lot from June 14th through the 17th. What we do is just put everything out on tables, and we ask the citizens to come shop a little bit, see what they'd like, and then just leave a reasonable donation. We have over 50,000 items at our sale, so I'm not going to be pricing any of it. And I certainly hope that the community comes out, and especially in our economic times, I'm sure there's something we can sell to you. I do ask a couple things. The first would be to waive the tent fee and the dump truck fee for us. And if anyone in the community would like to donate to us, we will come out and pick it up for you. It must be on the 1st floor. We're over 50. We can't do stairs anymore. During the week of the sale, certainly feel free to drop any items off that you would like to donate it. And we are tax deductible. So I'm just asking for a 4-day yard sale pass.
And again, that's June 14th through 17th?
Correct.
And West Hills Community Church is at 213 East 55th Street, just east of Cass?
Yes, it's 2 blocks east of Cass on the south side of 55th there. If anybody has questions in the community, feel free to call me at 630-971-1842.
Barbara, what are the hours of this sale?
The hours are going to be from 9 to 6 every day that we're open. If anybody would like to come and help us set up, that's just taking items out of the box and setting them on the table. And of course, the following Monday, the 18th, we'll be tearing down, so we have to repack everything we don't sell.
Barb, last year and the year before, I think you've been doing it there, this will be your 3rd year or 4th?
Yes, third year.
Third year. You've never had any issues with parking, have you, or traffic in that area?
No.
Okay, I'm just, just be aware of 55th Street
Well,
and the
that's-
craziness right now.
You
Just so
keep
that
driving by saying, hurry up, hurry up.
Yeah, yeah.
So hopefully, I'm thinking we have the front parking lot there, and also there's a rear parking lot as well. So
Great.
I'm hoping parking won't be an issue.
Great.
Now, usually on Cass and 55th, we put our signs up there. So I'm going to have to go and talk to whoever the foreman is and say, okay, where would you like us to put these? So
Steve, I don't recall last year with the truck. Have you reserved the truck already?
yes.
It's from the loaner truck, and they use it every
But
year.
for all 4 days?
No, it's just the last,
Just,
The end of the event.
right, they bring it Friday and then they pick it up Monday morning.
okay, great.
Yeah, Friday
I
after.
have no problem with that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Did you put it on the agenda formally?
Barbara, could you give your phone number again in case
Sure.
we get calls?
630-971-1842.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve
That's for Monday.
for Monday night for the waiving of the tent fee and the dump truck fee.
We'll put it on for Monday?
Put it on the agenda.
Good.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Barbara. And our third open forum request tonight is Richard Knitter.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you this evening. There was a group of 35 of us who met yesterday. Thank you. And we met at the Royal Hills Club condominium, which is located in Westmont.
Let me interrupt you while you take a breath. Name and address, please.
I'm sorry, Richard Knitter, 3009 35th Street, as written down on the form in Oak Brook, right down the block. And the group of 35 of us that met at the Royal Hills Club condominium were discussing the S-curve park or parcel that's located at 35th and Cass. We have approached you as the board previously to discuss this matter. Currently, the Westmont Park District is suing the village of Oak Brook over de-annexing 0.75 acres of that parcel. At the meeting last night, it was suggested that maybe we could approach your board and ask if there's a trustee who might be able to sit with our group and hear issues, hear concerns, not obviously to address all of you, but maybe just one of you might be assigned or one of you might be interested in it. So that's my I'll say request of trying to come to you is to see if maybe we could get a trustee assigned to meet with our group to discuss the S-curve parcel. If you want, we can get into a little bit of the conversations, but to make a long story short, the Village of Oak Brook's executive vice president has come to your board and asked and said, would you like to do an intergovernmental agreement? And the Village of Oak Brook will gladly de-annex the property, but you also have to keep it as open space. That would get rid of the lawsuit. Gopal Malani, the village president who is elected, has also come to your board and once again tried to offer an intergovernmental agreement between Westmont and the Village of Oak Brook about the de-annexation issues, as well as making sure that the property is kept as open space and honored with the deed restrictions. And the last point I was going to make in this is that while you might think of it as only Westmont Park District, there is an agreement that has 12 points in it. And of those 12 points, one of them is to keep this as open space. And that agreement is between the Village of Westmont and the Village of Oak Brook. It's not the Westmont Park District. And when the site was given from the Butlers, it was given to the Village of Westmont. It wasn't given to the Westmont Park District. So that deed, with the deed restrictions on it for passive park purposes, is to the Village of Westmont. So you might think you can wash your hands of it, but the Village of Westmont is going to be involved. And whether there's, say, suggested legal action, as was suggested last night, about the proper way to change zoning and why you change zoning and how the Village of Westmont looked at it for zoning issues and did it incorrectly, that was the Village of Westmont being involved and not simply the Westmont Park District. Hence, we're offering a request to see if we can have some conversation with the Board of Trustees from the Village of Westmont. That's it. Thank you for your time. And I have information if someone is wanting to review documents and get familiar with it in case you assign it to someone. If you do, we thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nitter. All right, reports. Mayor, on Monday night, will have a report on the Westmont Auto Mile, the cruise drawing for the veterans and the enlisted men and women. Similar, I take it, to what they did last year with the Auto Mile Big Tent Sale. So we'll hear more about that on Monday. Clerk's report.
I just want to congratulate the Lions and everybody involved with the Red, White, and Barbecue. It was phenomenal. The crowds were great. Of course, when you have good weather and not stormy weather like they had last year, it was phenomenal. There were so many people there and a lot of contestants, like 66.
66.
It was incredible, the amount of people they had, and they did a great job. A nice Memorial Day service on Monday. Nice parade. So it was just a nice weekend. It's good to be back when it has a nice weekend like that. That's all I have.
Village Attorney.
Nothing tonight.
Assistant Village Manager.
I have nothing from the manager tonight, but I had one additional purchase order for your consideration. It's for the Twin Supplies. They're the organization that got us the grant for the energy efficient lighting in our various buildings. And the terms of their contract are, they don't get paid for anything until after we receive the grant monies, which we recently did. So they've been without payment for a couple months, and I'd like to process this right away.
Okay.
And Steve, should we mention with the electric aggregation that the RFP responses came back from the electric suppliers, and there was a meeting to at least preliminarily discuss and rank the candidates, and I think there will be some information presented to the board in the future about the ultimate ranking. Is that correct?
Yes. Very quick terms, the initial proposal with the it wasn't the literal pricing, but it was for our consideration. And they addressed the proposals and also submitted their list of exceptions to it. But with the Village of Downers Grove today, we have kind of narrowed it down to 4 vendors, and there is more to process, and we'll get back to you with the details. But the numbers came back very well in all levels of renewable energy, as well as the various terms, 1 year, 2 years. So it looks very promising.
Good. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Trustee items. Trustee Nero.
Sure, a couple of things. Thanks. First, the Code Enforcement Committee of the Board meeting for Monday, June 4th has been canceled and rescheduled in combination with the Building and Zoning Committee of the Board meeting, which will be June 18th, 2012 at 6 p.m. And then secondly, I just want to remind everybody that this coming Thursday, Westmont's own farmers market starts. A lot of the vendors that are in Downers Grove on Saturday are going to be here. I think the count's up to 17. So everybody pack your refrigerators and closets and pantries and go to Westmont's fresh market. I think the farmers market's going to be a really great addition to Westmont. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Fleming.
Couple of things real quick. Tuesday evening, June 5th, there is a Public Works meeting at the Water Department starting at 6 p.m. It's open to the public, so anyone that would like to attend, by all means do. The other thing that I would like to do tonight is congratulate all of our 2012 graduates from Westmont High School. I attended the graduation last night. It was very, very nice. Auditorium was filled, and all I can say is we're sending 126 kids on to higher and better things. So congratulations to all of them. That's all I have.
Trustee Seneca.
Thank you. A couple of things. First of all, again, congratulations on the Red, White, and Barbecue. It was just fantastic. Also, on Sunday, the Race to the Flag for St. Jude. It was incredible. 500 runners and walkers. A lot of us here participated. I didn't run, believe me. I barely walked. I called it strolling. It was just really a nice event, and a lot of money was raised for a very, very worthy cause. And the Westmont Lions, who also hosted the Red, White, and Barbecue, cooked breakfast for all of the participants, so it was really nice. I had the pleasure today of going over to Miller School, and on behalf of the Westmont Lions, awarding 2 achievement awards to 2 fifth graders before they go on to the junior high. And it was just a great experience. I'm always just so proud of all of our kids here in Westmont and all of our wonderful schools. And with that, congratulations to all of our graduates, whether they're, preschool, 5th graders going into the middle school, junior high, high school, college. Congratulations to them all. And one other thing, I had a resident contact me about, and I know this has come up before, so it's something I'd like us to kind of put out there and start thinking about and hopefully be able to accomplish, and that's an amnesty day for our garbage collection. A lot of other communities do it. She kind of did a little straw poll of some people, and people are willing to, pay for that, in their garbage collection cost. So if that's something we can talk to Waste Management about, I'd like Ron to kind of start the wheels on that so that we can get that moving. And then the last thing I had has nothing to do with anything, but I was so excited when I figured this out. I just have to tell you. Everybody gets these phone calls at home where it's your final chance to lower your credit card interest rate, whether you have a balance or not, or it's your final chance to pick up that cruise, that you won, or, just any number of things, surveys, political calls. Well, my phone, I figured out how I can block those calls. So check your phone at home. If they call you, you can get that number off of caller ID, program your phone, and they can't call you again. So that's my public service announcement. I'm not getting any of those calls anymore. It's great. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Trustee Scott.
Thank you. Want to announce that the Economic Development Committee meeting for next Wednesday, the 6th, has been canceled due to a lack of an agenda. And I, too, would like to congratulate the Westmont High School class of 2012 seniors for graduating last night, which my daughter was one of them. And tonight, the junior high who's graduating tonight. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Personally, I'd like to say that I'm bummed that I missed Chief Weiss's party. I'm bummed that I missed the graduations, but I want to thank everybody for the get well wishes and flowers and stuff. Apparently, it was pretty amazing to see my face turn completely white instead of the usual rosacea red at a meeting, and so I had emergency surgery, but my pals all stepped to the plate and covered. So thank you very much, everybody. Let's go on to unfinished business. Item number 2 on the agenda, a consent agenda. Board to consider an ordinance creating a consent agenda section of the village board meeting agenda. Ron's not here to present it.
He's not. I think it's somewhat self-explanatory by what's passed out tonight and what was identical ordinance was distributed before the last meeting. You kind of have to look at some of the asterisks to understand how this would work. And I think the real issue would be, under the consent agenda, Ron lists approval of minutes, proclamations, resolutions, and certain ordinances that are deemed to be routine, and whether you want to expand the list in any way of, for example, routine. What constitutes a routine matter?
And the concept for people who are watching at home and don't really know what this means is the consent section of the agenda is commonly used in many other communities. It's a format to improve the efficiency of public meetings. So like when we sit here and we're like, go through this resolution, go through this purchase order, go through this proclamation, approve the minutes, those are all routine matters. What we'd like to do is bunch them into a consent agenda where it's handled with one vote. And then for people who are concerned with anything, that there should be something that should be pulled out, discussed, separately voted upon. Anybody on the village board has the opportunity and right to pull an item off the consent agenda, so nothing would get, shoved through. But it's basically to make our work much more, to keep the people at home awake, really, so that we get through it quickly. The two elements that are required is that the items are routine and they're non-controversial. So, and most of these items are not, and I know Trustee Klebanow has been adamant, but we would require that any item could be pulled off for discussion.
Right, and that's the only comment I have is Section 2-65 kind of describes the process, and it states that any item can be removed from the consent agenda by a motion of the mayor and/or one or more trustees. And in some communities, I've seen right before the consent agenda appears on the item, an item that says items to be removed from the consent agenda. And so you can have that separate discussion. It's always a standing matter on the agenda. I don't know if you'd like to see that added also.
I think it should, so it alerts somebody if something has been removed, we know it's been earmarked and we'll pay it, everybody who looks at the agendas online or here we know there's a reason it's been moved off. So if it says items removed and says none, then we've got our consent agenda right off of it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I think what I meant by having that items removed from the consent agenda, when we get to that, we'd go around. Is there anything you'd like to see removed from the consent agenda? Any motions? If they're not, fine, you move on. And you'd actually probably at the committee of the whole skip right over the consent agenda items and move on to new business.
Good.
Great.
Right.
So just so the public understands, consent agendas would be used on both committee of the whole and Monday night? Or could we do regular for Thursday and then do a consent on Monday?
At one point, that was considered. And remember, some of our Monday nights are a half hour. You don't have discussion anyhow on Monday nights. So it's not saving you a lot of time on Monday night to vote separately for those items or to have them on a consent agenda. I think the real time savings would be on the Thursday nights for non-controversial items that you've seen over and over again. So the plan was to have them on the committee of the whole as well.
Okay.
And you could always
So we can always pull it out.
Yeah.
I think we lose some part of transparency. And this, I think when the public has probably not the best opinion of government today, and we start doing this, even though it may work it works in private industry because you can go into a board meeting and it lasts for hours. I'm not quite sure that we're at that point in local government at this time that, we're in half hour, 20 minutes, sometimes it's 2 hours. It still is another layer now that's taken away of transparency. And it has put more onus on the public then to do their homework, which I'm not sure that that's going to happen in all instances.
But the items that would be in the consent are available at the website. We publish it all.
Still on the agenda.
I
They're
understand
still on the agenda.
It's still the appearance of it. That's just my opinion on it. I just think that it's, I would feel better if we didn't do it. If the board goes with it, the board goes with it. I can understand it, but I would prefer if we didn't.
Any other
I don't think we're at that point in this economy right now that we're spending so many hours at the board level. That, if we had 5 businesses coming in to try to do talk before us, or we were, spending 3-4 hours here on a Thursday and a Monday night, that's a different story. You might have to do it. In private sector, I can understand it. In public sector, I don't. That's all I've got.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay. Moving on, new business. Item number 3, 18 West Quincy, commuter train station, downtown development permit. Board to consider the following requests for the Westmont Cafe at the commuter train station at 18 West Quincy Street. A, an ordinance approving a B1 limited business district development permit, and B, an ordinance approving a license agreement for use of space within the commuter train station. Hello.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Ryan. This is Jolene Ryan. And We hope to have the opportunity to open the Westmont Cafe in the downtown Westmont train station. The hours would be 5 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. We are offering New England gourmet coffees, cappuccino, hot chocolate, a variety of teas, an assortment of pastries, bagels, and muffins, all of which would be offered in a self-service setting. The Westmont Cafe would be a convenience to the commuters and a benefit to the Westmont community.
You might need probably our acting economic development director at the podium with you to answer some of the questions. What's the situation on potable water over there?
It's to be determined. The petitioners think that they've found a connection in one of the two closets.
Actually, I can confirm that the water is there, but it's the sanitary sewer that is still of question. There is a drain on the floor, but we haven't determined how that's connected yet.
Okay. Has there been any consideration about the required grease trap that would have to go into the, required by the health department?
They would be communicating with the health department directly on their requirements.
Okay.
We've suggested having that conversation early on in the process so that they are aware of what they would need to do.
Okay. What's the situation as far as, since this would be retail, Chief Weiss? What's the situation as far as what would be required for fire protection for retail, especially because, I mean, it falls within whatever our code is for restaurant because you got coffee burners going and everything. What's required and what's there?
I talked to Fire Marshal Daniels tonight about this, and currently the train depot has a fire alarm system in it, pull stations and smokes. It does not have a sprinkler system. It's not required because it's by ordinance in B1 at this time.
Mm-hmm.
I did talk to Fire Marshal Daniels, and he did review this and has no issue with this moving in there.
Okay. But it's in B1, so it's currently where it's got a date coming up and a deadline for heat smoke detectors, and then currently under a moratorium for sprinkling, correct?
That's correct.
So if we decide at some point in the future that we have to address those issues with the downtown business owners, this would be a village issue then to comply with the fire code in the building since the village owns the train station, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Unless otherwise made part of their licensing agreement, that's correct.
Okay. My understanding, Shannon, is that it would be $200 rent to the village, including utilities? Per month.
It was a flat $200 amount, correct, including, so that would be given to the village in order to help pay for the utilities. It was a flat fee.
Okay.
What is that per square foot?
About $4, I think.
How big is that
It's
space?
a 500 square foot space.
500 square feet?
Yeah.
You will note in the draft license agreement that was passed out, I mistakenly indicated, because we haven't had these discussions yet, that the licensee, the user of the space, would be responsible for not only making all utility connections, bringing them into the building, but also paying for all utilities for their use: electric, gas, sewer, water. Is that not the case?
Well, the amount of rent that they're paying is a flat, it's not like a triple net or anything, it's just a $200 flat rate. So I'm not sure in terms of metering or anything, how the utility would work out. Do you have any
It's not
input,
metered
Steve?
independently. This is the proposal as they've presented it to you for consideration, so.
Because my understanding from the packet that I got is that it would be $200 flat per month rent,
Right.
utilities included, which would be gas, heat, electric, certainly not telephone, and water.
Because the utilities aren't split with separate meters.
And sewer.
Yes.
And garbage?
And garbage.
Do we do garbage pickup
Could
there? I assume so.
Could I move in there? $200 a month in utilities? Sorry, I was out of line, sorry. Okay.
Who decided the fee?
It was a discussion that at the staff level we had with Mr. and Mrs. Ryan, because this is kind of a unique opportunity. We haven't had, anyone in the last few months approach the village or ever really get this far with a proposal for the train depot, for the vacant space in the train depot over the last several years. So we requested that they propose a figure to us to present to you.
Okay.
So they may be able to speak more to how they arrived at that figure.
Well, let me ask you this. The last applicant for that space was Brood Awakenings, correct?
We've had others since who
I know the chiropractor guy also wanted to
there
go in
was
there.
an Italian cafe, another coffee shop or two that, again, were kind of tire kicking and never got to the point of actually submitting a proposal.
Okay, who was the last one to submit a proposal?
As far as I'm aware, I believe it was Brood Awakening.
And why was the proposal turned down?
Okay, to the best of my knowledge, going back to the previous director in conversations today that Steve May and I both had with the previous director, the reasoning for that denial was related to the infrastructure for plumbing not being, the cost of adding that infrastructure not being part of the plan of the business plan of the petitioner. So at that time, and this predates me, so this is, they may want to speak for themselves on the matter, but they, I believe, proposed to walk water, potable water, across the street from the Brood Awakening building as it stands today to the new tenant space in the train station. According to Mr. Kimball, he spoke to the health department at that time, circa 2005, 2006, and the health department indicated that they would not approve such a plan. I raised the question of whether or not any accessibility issues came into play. Mr. Kimball explained to me today that that was a more minor issue because this is an existing building, so it would be assumed that some sort of accommodation may be necessary because of the design already being in place and retrofitting it to a new tenant.
It was a kiosk.
Yeah, that there was going to be a kiosk down on the
In the lobby.
because it's not accessible under the ADA on those
But
stairs.
I think the kiosk was different from the ADA issue. I think, if I recall right, Brood Awakening proposed to set up a kiosk rather than build out a tenant space.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why I think they felt like we can bring water over, because I could be completely wrong, but we're not going to be connecting to all the various utilities and water. We're going to keep this as a simpler operation.
And at that particular time also, and for many years, it has been our understanding that there wasn't that capability in that space.
Right.
And all of a sudden now we find this out. And I have to disagree. The ADA accessibility was an issue because I remember the cost that they were incurred. They did contact Springfield and they did tell them. The cost would have incurred about somewhere in the vicinity of $30,000 to $50,000 to make the modification for the ADA accessibility of this location. Now, what makes this any different than that?
Mr. Pro and I met earlier today, and he expressed that same figure, approximately that same figure.
I mean, I was here when this came about.
When the Ryans approached the village, I sought the opinion of the Illinois Capital Improvement Board director. He's kind of the one that has the oversight authority for the accessibility law, and he provides interpretations locally for the entire state. He's really the go-to person. The correspondence that I had with him explaining the situation, I asked the question if, because the building itself has ADA access through the ramp by the platform into the main bottom level of the building. So I raised the question if the petitioners were able to create a system where an order could be taken and hand-delivered by an employee, would that be considered a reasonable accommodation? According to the Capital Improvement Board, it would. He did not suggest that a $30,000 to $40,000 improvement be required. I don't know why that information, if it was different, why that may be now, but that's the current interpretation that we've received from the state.
So now we're talking about a delivery system within the train station. Now, what liability would we incur? Say they come out of there with the coffee in their hands and their person trips on the stairs and falls down. What do we do?
Well, if they're within the licensed space,
they wouldn't be.
I would be doing
they would be
it.
liable. Once they're in the train station, just like with any user of the train station, whether they have coffee in their hands or a newspaper from the newspaper rack, or they're very own newspaper, the village is potentially liable. Now, again, if the village maintains the train station in a safe condition and doesn't have any defects, cracks, standing water, ice, generally you can avoid liability. You also have tort immunity. So simply because they left one shop and are going to the train and trip and fall doesn't automatically create liability. You've got liability concerns whether there's a coffee house there or not.
And regardless of who the tenant or type of tenant may be.
I mean, I guess my whole thing is here, I'm not comfortable with the fact of the village getting in the coffee business. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's the way I look at this right now.
Well, I can, let's, any other questions of the petitioners from the board? Have any questions?
Where did you come up with that $200 figure? Just curious.
I did a rent survey in the local suburbs here, not in CoStar or anything like that, but of listings, local retail properties that aren't on the main drag. Some were on the main drag, and on a gross and net basis, and reconciled it that way.
Well, I do have to tell you, I have been a commuter between school and work. I have ridden the Metro for 34 years. And I don't drink coffee. I never liked the taste. Every 10 years I go, I'll try it, and it still doesn't work. But anyway, besides that, I've never forgiven Clarendon Hills for bringing in a Starbucks and carving out of Quinn's coffee shop. My idea of economic development in Westmont is that we welcome people, we welcome free enterprise, we like to see people succeed. It is not my idea, people may feel differently, we each have a vote here. It is not my idea of good economic development to welcome people into Westmont with this hand while we prepare to stab someone in the back with the other hand. I also did a survey. I talked to various business owners, including Brewed Awakenings, and I'll tell you, $200 is a steal.
Sweet deal.
Because the rents and utilities ranged from a low of $2,800 to a high of $3,800. And that's people who are more than a few steps from the train tracks. So you would definitely have a captive audience. To the people who say, well, Brewed Awakenings has loyal customers, yes, they do, and that is appreciated, and they worked very hard for them. 90% of their business is commuters. I know from 34 years of commuting that for every 3 people that emailed us, and by the way, to those at home, thank you for all of the emails. One of our jobs is to take into account what the residents think, and they have been heard. But anyway, for every 3 people that have emailed us and said, don't do this, I'm a loyal customer of Brewed Awakenings, there are 300 that the only thing they care about is if it saves them 30 seconds, because they just ran in front of a train to get to this side to catch it, and they can grab a cup of coffee and, they could care less about Brewed Awakenings because they are commuters. That is the nature of the beast, whatever is fast and convenient. I think this will stab Brewed Awakenings right between the 2nd and 3rd rib on the left side. So, and this isn't singling you out. If Baby Gap were here saying we want to go next door to Sweet Pea, I'd say no. If True Value wanted to go next door to Bales, I'd say no. If Baby Gap wanted to go to 63rd Street, I'd say yes. If you want to go to 63rd Street, I'd say yes. Right across the street from somebody who's paying a minimum of $2,800 a month and has been busting their butts to run that coffee shop, I'm going to say no. So that's my take on it.
At one time, we had 4 coffee shops in the downtown area close to the trains. We have 1 now that's open in the morning. The other 3 closed or open later in the day. The one that was Dolce's, which was right down the street, wasn't able to make it. And everybody thought they had the greatest concept. TVs inside with the schedules, the cameras on the tracks so they could see the train in Downers Grove when it was coming. Brood Awakening and the rest of them all take a hit anytime somebody else new comes in. And now we're down to one that's open. I don't think with 1,200 people getting on the train every day, there's enough traffic to handle anymore. I think part of our duties as the trustees is to make sure we provide the best way we can a vibrant community and protect our businesses that have been here for a long time. This isn't anything personal to you guys, okay? Don't take it that way, please. If it was, like Trustee Emery said, if it was any other business you were looking at and there was going to be competition, competition's great. And we'll hear the story about free enterprise. Free enterprise is really good when you're talking about global, national, state level, when it's not personal. Local politics, local business, it's all personal. We know everybody in this town that's in business. We have to live here, and we have to protect the ones that are here. We look for long-term businesses. You know, businesses that come in, last a year and go, and it's a continuous cycling of them. Myself as a business owner, when I was looking for a new location, I look for people that have been there with longevity. Why? Because it shows success. It shows something that's working. And it shows that people that are already coming to those stores, which will be near my new store, okay, that it's established. That's what you want. Businesses that keep coming in and out, it doesn't help a community. I know it's what happens in a community, but it doesn't help a community that much. And I think it's our responsibility to protect the businesses that have been here for a long time. So that's my take on it.
Well, I mean, the other part of this is, which is a little bothersome to me, it's a great concept. I mean, it's fantastic, but for village-owned property to be used by a private entity for profit, I have a problem with it, especially with the rent being only $200 a month. Now, the rest of our businesses in this town, as we have said, and wherever you got the $4 a square foot, I've been in construction and all that for a long time, and I know things have dropped, but there comes a time when we do have to pay attention to who we presently have in town. And I mean, it's a case that Brood Awakenings has gone through some very tough times, and I think they're beginning to get back on their feet again finally. There's just some businesses in proximity to each other that it just doesn't make sense to me to do that. And I have to agree, if it was something down on 63rd, if it was up on Ogden Avenue, hey, have at it. But I just, not in a train station. I just don't.
I currently work at a train station and a coffee shop, and he's been there for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
There are several coffee shops in the area. Everyone has business going. We weren't doing this to hurt Brood Awakening. I think we would both be successful, just like at the train station that I'm at right now. But
you know, I think
that's a different scenario, and I understand that.
And the rent was negotiable.
But this is Westmont. But my main concern here is that we're taking village-owned property and leasing it to someone to make a profit, okay? Now, I don't know what statutes, if there are any or whatever, but I don't think that is proper. I don't think that's right.
Paying all of their utilities, it's going to come down to.
It is negotiable.
We understand that, but as it sits now.
Okay, here's what I think. I haven't said anything up to now. So, you know, and we sat through the Economic Development Committee meeting, and we had a lot of discussion, and we had the discussion about competition. And we went through the whole, you know, competition is healthy thing, competition is bad thing, you know, if you're going to, hurt the mom and pop. In this particular case, the way I envision it, it's like Brood Awakenings is awesome. They've got the best coffee in town. I'm telling you, their customers aren't even going to try yours. We know that. We said that that's, those people are staying at Brood Awakenings. The people that are going to frequent this business are the ones that are coming from the north, that, don't have time to, will never walk across the street, have never gone into Brood Awakenings, and probably never will, but now there's a convenience there at the station that they've never had before. I'd be interested to know in these other coffee shops along the Burlington Northern, what kind of rents they're paying.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. And I'm not ready to flat out say no, I'll be honest. I don't think it's government's role to limit competition. I think when you have a solid, good business, if it's solid and good, nothing's going to drive it out, not even a Starbucks. So, I'm struggling with this because I see it a little bit differently.
But again, I say, it's government, it's village-owned property.
But there's no law against it.
I understand, but the vision of that, to me, if I was a basic resident in this town looking at this, and I saw that my village is renting a space in a village public building to a private entity to make a profit, my comment or my question is going to be, what are they thinking?
Yeah. Well, I wonder what the people in Downers and Clarendon, I wonder what those residents think about it, because it's the same situation all up and down the Burlington Northern.
And you might know this.
We've said it before. That's Downers.
Steve, I'm sorry, what did you say?
This is Westmont.
How they do it in other villages, because, Trustee Fleming raised a good point. I get where he's coming from, but I know other villages do it all over the place, and I know people love the thing. I definitely see a need for that in the train station, because I know there's a lot of people, like Trustee Emery said, that are crushed for time and seconds, and I really see a need for that. I definitely see a market for that. Is there enough for two? I mean, that's the argument, but I'm just curious how other villages do it, how they came up with their rent, how they portrayed it to their residents as, hey, we're putting in a for-profit company into a village-owned property to provide a service. So if you have that information, or Shannon, that would be nice.
Maybe we can get that.
I also want to say that we were going to take on the cost of remodeling all of it. We were going to put in new, everything. We were paying for everything, all of the seating, all of the...
So you were going to build out the property and...
Yes.
Right, well, it's...
And the rent and the...
That's okay.
The rent and the utilities, I don't know, wasn't put in there, but it is negotiable. And I know Brood Awakening.
Mr. Ryan had some information that might help answer some of Trustee Nero's questions, and if there are any unanswered questions that arise out of that data, we'd be happy to try to get that information between now and Monday.
Well, I have some other questions. One is,
Can you answer mine real quick? I think he's got the info.
Yeah, if you've got the stuff, then go ahead.
Just some data here. I don't have rents for the other stations, but I can tell you firsthand that some of your neighbors, such as Glen Ellen, LaGrange, Villa Park, Elmhurst, Lombard, and Downers Grove all have coffee shops within their stations. And in addition, each of those facilities has at least one, and in some cases two, additional coffee shops directly across the street. For example, Downers Grove, a little busier, but Downers Grove, directly across from the street, has a Caribou Coffee and a Starbucks. Glen Ellen, similarly sized to Westmont in their population. I understand you're approximately 25,000. Glen Ellen's at about 27,000. They've got a commuter station there. They've got a coffee shop on the inside, directly across the street, again, a Starbucks. So it is happening in other communities.
Well, I can also tell you that large companies such as Starbucks and Caribou will easily withstand negative numbers in an effort to drive out a local business. Sure. So that's not a factor for me, because they put their businesses in strategically, and they'll profit at a loss just to try to outweigh the person and say, you, Mr. Independent Businessman, how long can you take this? Because we can take this hit a lot longer than you can.
But they've been there a long time.
And I understand that. And the other thing is,
they all stay in business.
And I don't really care what all the towns do. I know that they're comparables and all of that. I care about this town, and I care about the businesses in this town. Mm-hmm. And I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I said about the commuters with their time clock. when they are interested in saving 30 seconds to catch the next train and it's easier for them, those are the people that now will, pardon my French, run like hell across Quincy to get in Brood Awakenings and run back to catch the train. That entire market of people will now not even cross the street. 15 steps to Brood Awakening. And I would guess that Brood Awakening's commuter business is around 85 to 90%. The rest are the ones who are the village residents that go in there and it's a gathering place and poetry readings and music and all that. But 85 to 90% are the people that I think you're going to direct it away. And congrats to you if that's successful, your business, but I don't want that to happen to a business that has worked very, very hard to be a success here.
I don't want to do that to Brood Awakening either.
If I could just add one other piece to the last one is those stations have other private owners. They're not all national credits or franchises. That's Coffee, for example, is one of them. I don't recall all the names, but these are individual sole proprietorships that have withstood economy situations and another tenant in the train station.
Right. And just so that you understand, we appreciate that. And like Trustee Scott brought up, we have been through many iterations of coffee shops within the train station area.
A few comments that apply irrespective of the end user in this space. One, your comments about competition. Since this is a proposed private use of public space, whether it's a kids' clothing store, coffee shop, whatever, you can properly consider the impact, the competitive impact on existing businesses. However, were this private land and it was a zoning consideration, such as a rezoning, even a development permit, special use, you can't consider competition. That is not a proper factor under the case law that's been developed over the years. So to your point, step back a little bit from that. It may be an underlying motivation, but maybe we shouldn't express that. And also, you know, when you want your town to grow, sometimes you have to, you know, businesses are going to survive and fall on their own. The other point has to do with the real estate taxes. And to your point, whether this is allowed or not, it is allowed, but the property that is used for a private purpose can lose its tax exempt status once the county gets wind of it. So there's a provision in the license agreement that says if real estate taxes are assessed against this portion of the property, the end user, or whoever it is, will be responsible for paying that. If taxes were to be assessed against the entire property and the village would have to challenge that and get it reduced to the usable space, I put in language that they would have to reimburse the village for the legal costs for getting that tax situation rectified.
Which could be expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Potentially, yes.
And I just, you know, and I understand what you're saying about negotiability, but for all the other similar businesses in town to be paying thousands of dollars and for us as a village to say, here, use our property and we'll pay all the utilities, and this is, you know, you get it essentially for a song. I mean, anything short of $2,000 is a song based on what everybody else is doing. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's a fair to other business owners, and I don't think it's a good thing for the town. I just don't, for us to do something like that. And what I would like to know is, what are the current utilities costs? Because the day it comes to the fact that the village is paying more in utilities than what we're even getting in rent from a private enterprise borders on the insane to me.
That's what I was saying, if we can see what the utilities were, but it sounds like it's not something you want. Anyway, so.
Well, we need,
utilities.
we're going to make an informed decision. I would like to hold this to the next set of meetings because I know there's some information that I want. I personally, I know there's some other stuff that you're looking for as far as comparable rents and all that, but I want to know about that portable water issue because certainly we don't want you going in those gross bathrooms and taking the water out of there to make the coffee either, because that's the only water that's currently in there.
I think the water wasn't an issue, it was the sewer.
The sewer.
the storm sewer. They've got to find where the connection is.
Sanitary, correct.
There's a main water pipe right there in the closet.
We had a construction person look at all of that for us already to.
All right, well.
I agree, though. I'd like to hold it to the next set of meetings, because we do have a lot of unanswered questions.
And I wanna
we have
know
two
what
board
the-
members that are missing that I
And
think
I want to
should
know
have input.
what the utilities are now, because there's going to be more electricity, more heat. Right now, that room is shut off. There's certainly water, and there's going to be a lot of water. So,
Yeah, it'd be neat to see how other villages do the utilities things and what the other villages charge them for rent.
Yeah, I think we have some homework to do.
Because I don't think the rent, as they said, is negotiable is a reason to say no, because obviously we're not happy with that amount. I mean, that's
Exactly. We
a sweetheart
understand
deal.
that.
But if that's negotiable, that's fine. But I think we also have a lot of people here from Brood Awakening, so I'd
Well-
like to hear their side. And
well, that's the other thing, is that if the board members have no other comments or questions, I want to open it up to the public, because there's a lot of people here, and we all want to hear what they have to say. In accordance with our, anything else, by the way?
That's
No, thank you.
Okay. In accordance with our normal policy, when you step up to the podium, please identify yourself by name and address, and if you can, limit your comments to 3 minutes so that we can get through.
Okay, I'm not going to step on too much. I like what you said. I like what he said. I like what he said. I'm going to try to address what Ms. Seneca had to say. My name is
introduce
Paul
yourself.
Shelton,
Okay.
Shelton. I'm an attorney. I have an office in Westmont, and I'm representing Brood Awakenings and Westmont Depot, and that's Sylvia Jeanette here and Craig Pro, and then there's another gentleman that has the magazine shop, because we had the feeling that they were going to also sell magazines and do things like that. What I wanted to point out is that Brood Awakenings has been around for about 20 years. These owners have had it for about 8 years. It's much like what you had said in Clarendon Hills. Her business has gone down quite a bit, but they're still surviving. We're pretty certain that their business is going to go down. They are paying something like $2,800 a month for rent for probably less space than the 500 square feet. Now, the proposal I got says $2,000 a month.
That was a typographical.
That was a typographical, so it is $200 a month. So what I also wanted to point out is that, the magazine shop has been around for about 50 years. It is a new owner. He's been there for about 2 years. What I wanted to point out is you're talking about public property being used for private use, and I'm not completely sure if you guys were deciding to do that ahead of time before this particular proposal was made, but I wanted to point out that my clients had previously submitted an application in 2006. I actually have the village board minutes, and it actually says that a motion by trustee Forsley approving the ordinance granting conceptual approval for the license of the space. It may have been for a kiosk, but was for selling coffee. So if what you're looking for is, it'd be nice to have kind of a coffee shop, that is kind of what they wanted to do. So the way I'm looking at it, and one of the problems that they couldn't do it was because there was an ADA, Americans with Disability Act problem, because they were told they would have to spend between I think you were there, between $40,000 and $50,000 to put in a ramp so that we could have accessibility. Now, I do see the email that Shannon had, which talks about, she asked the question, could placing an order on the main ADA accessible floor, which would then be hand-delivered to a disabled person by a cafe employee, be considered equal accommodation? And his answer was, yes, that would be equal accommodation. But I still think, from a legal standpoint, there are some issues with that in terms of the American with Disabilities Act. Not being followed. Now, I know you talked about liability, but I did personal injury for a long time. There's more to it than the personal injury. You have to be compliant with the ADA, I think, even in your space, not just that you've set up an equal accommodation, the way the question was worded, that they're going to have an employee go down to the space and hand the coffee off. I think you still might have to. There may be some liability there in terms of not giving a ramp to the actual open facility. And again, I think that's something that needs to be looked into. And again, I'm not really completely sure how it was decided that you were going to open this space up for private private, because if it's open, I'd love to put an application in, to put my office in there. I mean, I can, meet people. That's a joke, but I mean, $200 per square foot.
That's not a joke.
No, I'm at 700 East Ogden, and that building was completely empty when I got in there, and my rent is $12 a square foot, which I think is very good, and I have a smaller space than that. They were asking, 3 or 4 years ago, $19 to $20 a square foot. So to put a private enterprise in there for profit at, what did we say, $4 a square foot, I think we have some issues legally as to whether this should be open up to the public in terms of who wants to try to get in there.
Just to address that real quick, there was a request for proposals in 2006 that the village issued. That was, the RFP was approved by the village board as to what it was looking for, and it was looking for any sort of retail, coffee, banking use, et cetera. Went on and on with a list. It did not give any preference for a use.
Okay.
And the results were, or the responses were, I think,
0. And it was published in the paper.
But at that time, there wasn't any dollar amount for rent put in there either. Not to the best of my knowledge.
Proposal.
But I think you've already raised a lot of the issues. As if you're going to offer this to someone, it's going to have to be for a reasonable amount of money, because otherwise, I think you have to open it up to the public with the opportunity to try to put their space in there. I still think that there are some issues too, whether my client, Craig Pro, actually had an application that was approved. He couldn't do it. You got to sell a lot of coffee to get $50,000 to put that ramp in there. But I don't know if that's ever been dismissed or whatever needs to be done with an ordinance. So I think he may have intellectual property rights in terms of being right of first refusal to be able to do it. And I mean, you can address that. But basically, I think from a business standpoint, they've been in this, as you had stated. They're a business that's here, and I think maybe we should open it up for the possibility that they want to do the same thing.
What was the date of that meeting?
That was 2006.
What was the date of the meeting? I'd like to view the.
Give you the. This was the.
Thank you.
So.
And since, just to clarify that the Ryans did say 200 was what was suggested and all that, but it sounds like that we might have to go to auction.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. It has to be opened up if you're going to, and I don't know how it came up. Was it their application that basically said at this point in time made you think that we're going to turn it into a private space, or if they hadn't put an application, would it still just be sitting here and nothing would have come up? So that's an issue. So anyway, I'm going to open it up to everyone else that has something to say.
Okay.
And we would like to put it off so that we can have some of these discussions a little further.
We need some more information.
And I'd like to see the full voting trustees here so we could really open it up.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton.
Thank you.
Just to answer Mr. Shelton's question, the Ryans approached staff with the concept after doing their own due diligence. We did not go through the process of even considering letting an RFP or anything else like that go at this point, so.
Okay. Anybody else?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Craig Pro. I'm one of the silent partners of our Brood Awakening. And as you know, we've been here for going on 8 years now, and I really appreciate everybody coming out to support us. And we would like to continue to be here. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in it, and a lot of time and effort to serve the community. And we've established a lot of allies here, and I'd like to stay here until I retire. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg. Anybody else?
I might as well. My name's Wayne David. I'm 318 South Washington. I've lived in Westmont for 35 years, but I've been here all my life. I played Little League at the field over here, had a great time there. But I've been a customer of Brood Awakening since they opened when Kelly had it. Matter of fact, I lent Kelly the money to buy the building. But since Sylvia and Craig took it over, I've been a regular customer there. And I like the personal service I get. I go in there, I ride my bicycle in the morning, I go in there, I have no money, I have no ID. I said, Sylvia, I need a cup of coffee. I need a cranberry nut donut. I get it, I don't pay for it.
Don't
I come
say
back
that on
later.
TV. People are going in there.
It sounds like everything's free there. We're
Don't
live,
say
okay?
that.
We're
I just
broadcasting
think,
live.
like some of you have expressed, it's a local company. They busted their butt for this village to stay in business and provide a great service. And they've done all that. I've seen Dolce come in with their big screen TV. I don't need it. If I'm a commuter, I don't need a TV to tell me my train's coming. I know what time my train's coming. I've commuted for 14 years downtown. I knew my 641 was coming in at 6:41, at 6:35 I left and went to this train, right? If I'm riding the train, I see people, I still do, I see people standing there, they aren't buying coffee, they're talking. If they're running to the train, they're running over when the lights are flashing, and they're running over and the train's coming, and they're jumping on the train. They aren't going for a cup of coffee. They want to get to work. So to me, I think, I agree with you, $200, I'll move in. I'll sell my house. My wife and I will move in. I'll pay the water, I'll pay the electricity, and I'll move into the place. So I just don't know where that number even came from. So I'm just speaking against, not against the people, I'm just against the concept. We've got an established village, and we want to now put a competition right across the street. Where are we going to get any more tax dollars from? It ain't going to happen. And we may put 2 businesses out of business, not just one. So I just want to speak to that. And finally, to an unrelated source, I live in Westmont. I see we have our own street sweepers. I saw my street was swept today. About 12, 18 inches from the curb, there's a big bunch of debris. I work for a company, we do 30 municipalities street sweeping. We would be called by our municipality and said, that's not acceptable. So I think we need to look at our equipment, get it fixed so that street sweeps the streets properly so they're clean.
Thank you, Mr. David.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sylvia. I'm one of the Brood Awakening owners, and what I wanted to say is when I took over Brood Awakening, it started being a recession time after that, or a recession, and it was very hard, and everybody told me to get out of town because it was the wrong town, and I shouldn't be here because, you know, I'm not going to make it. Well, we've made it 8 years, and my dream is to retire at Westmont, and I want to thank each and every one of you for supporting me each and every day that you come in, and without all the people from town, I would not be here, but I also know they're going to be very angry if another coffee shop opens up, because there's like approximately 1,000 people that I counted, and I get there at 3 in the morning each and every day, and I even tell people, your train's coming, you better catch it to go to work, you know, and so I just want to say that they're very upset, and they're very annoyed that somebody would come in trying to have 2 stores when I can barely make it. And the reason I've made it is I work 80 hours a week. And I don't know if any of you are aware of it, but I get up at 2 in the morning every day, and I haven't had a day off in 8 years to keep that store. And it would be a real big injustice to take it away from me. And I pay a lot of taxes to Westmont, and I think it's something to consider. I don't play around, I don't waste my time. I do what's right. I make great coffee and homemade muffins each and every morning. And I just wanted to say thank you again for the opportunity, and I'd like to be here 15 more years. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hilda Ramos, and I am a Metro commuter. I live in Darien, and I have to say that Sylvia's a wonderful person. She creates a community in her coffee shop. I, too, one time got free coffee. I didn't have change, and she said, you know what, just come back and pay the next time. And you can only get that in a small business like that, you know, that family feeling that you will never get in a big place like Starbucks, even though I do like Starbucks, but I like her coffee better because she makes it with love. I have to say I never missed my train because I went across, you know, to get coffee, and I think that, you know, one of the things that makes America great is those small businesses that give people the opportunity to feel like you're part of something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Raphael. I'm at 26 North Williams in Westmont. Grew up here, left for a long time, spent a long time out of country, and I come back and the Westmont that I remembered is in this coffee shop that she's provided. So many people from Westmont every day, from teachers to cab drivers, are inside there enjoying their morning, and it becomes part of my morning. It's actually enjoyable. Yes, I need the coffee to get going. We work long hours. Been a commuter to Chicago for a long time. Part of my background is in small business development and nonprofit organizational development, both into the U.S. and outside. The first time we took the Small Business Administration, first time under Bush, we brought it to Mexico and did 44 small business development centers, of which I was project director, which means creating small businesses and maintaining them, that's the American way of life. And we teach other nations how to do this. Well, the village, having these individuals fill out an application in 2006 to come into the village and say, you know what, this is our idea, we want to do this. And we want to go about it the right way. And then with the cost ratio came out, and it's a whole lot of money to put the ADA requirements in, they weren't able to do it. Based on that issue, not based on not wanting to serve our commuters in a better way, because they have that personal touch, they have a base of operations across the street, they've got that, they've got everything necessary to really serve our commuters. So now that we find out that that ADA thing could be varied, I mean, I just feel with community development and small business development that we really need to bring this to the individuals who first brought it to our attention in 2006, because it was new business on the agenda. So my point is only that the village of Westmont is a beautiful community. It's an incredible community. I've lived all over the world. And I think we need to stand up for our small businesses. We need to work together with them. And if anything like this was available, I believe it should have been known to them, hey, this variance isn't available. Would you like to compete on this bid? That's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Christopher, I'm sorry,
Yes.
could you give me your last name and your address?
Lafayette,
and your address again?
26 North Williams.
Thank you.
I'm Lorraine Devereux' son.
Good evening. My name is David Svitak, 403 North Park Street, Westmont. I'm not per se against this type of business coming into the train station space. What I am not in favor of is the proposed lease agreements of $200 per month. If there was an option to see what would go into that location, it would be for a not-for-profit organization. Two good examples would be the Westmont Chamber of Commerce and the Westmont Special Rents Corporation. Why those two? So that way you could potentially get all those tenants out of Westmont Center and sell that dinosaur of a building. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm Tim Damus. I'm at 219 West Quincy. I'm not much of a coffee drinker, but I'm always over there. And I just want to say one thing. Shame on you guys. Just like the gentleman spoke over there, $200. I understand you're trying to bring business in there. I understand you're trying to do it, but let's think about it. Let's think about what the consequences are. I understand that you need to get revenue and raise revenue and, want to keep costs down, but the way it was done was just like you guys weren't even thinking, in my opinion, and to many others' opinion. $200, this, that, many other things.
You didn't come up with that. I think you've heard that here too.
I understand, but just the thought of just looking at that and just seeing that, and also just looking at the consequences that you are the village. We pay taxes for you guys to make decisions for all of us. The coffee shop, who knows, they could have been selling newspaper stuff in the newspaper stand. And then what's going to happen is she's out of business, he's out of business, and all of a sudden that doesn't fail. Then we got three places that are just about empty. You know, I just like Mr. Raphael, I deal with business all the time, real estate, this, that, you know, I've run plenty of businesses, and it just seems like there wasn't really much thought or anything put into this. It just seems pretty sad that someone wants to come in, okay, throw them over there. Someone wants to come in, okay, throw them over there. And then it just doesn't seem like any thought was put into it. I'm sorry.
Thank you for your comments, but I do want to address one thing about that. That's why people come before us. We don't come up with this stuff and throw it out amongst ourselves. It comes before us, the village board, for the first time on every other Thursday night at the Committee of the Whole. We don't come up with this stuff. It comes to us, we discuss it, and when we sit here and make comments about $200 a month, it's because it was brought to us. It wasn't our idea. So I can certainly appreciate your feelings about it, but the reason that it is here before us is so that we can talk about it, we can look at the proposal. Many proposals that we think are goofy or unfair or whatever else are turned down. That's why they come before us.
It should have been turned down before wasting all these people's
Just to
good time
clarify,
over there.
the $200, I was at that meeting. That's the Economic Development Committee meeting that Trustee Scott chairs and I co-chair. And when they addressed $200 per month, the committee had discussion after that, and we agreed that that would be something we would negotiate. No one ever agreed to $200 a month.
It's not just the $200 a month. It's not just the $200 a month. It's the thought of this whole, you know, you threw in a coffee shop next to her, you know, what, a couple of years ago. You know, it's like, I can understand you place certain people in certain areas, you know, but like I said before, you know, you're the board. You guys talk about it. You know, you guys, you know, put your brains together and think things in. And some things shouldn't even bother even wasting these people's time, because that, I've spoken to these people at the coffee shop and we're all thinking together, and this is like, where does these ideas come up from? Why are we wasting our time?
To try to come into this
It's America.
No, I understand that, but
Last time I checked.
Come here and talk to us
The
about
other
it.
thing that you need to understand is we are precluded by law, and we all take that seriously. We don't have these little, pardon the phrase, coffee clutches where we talk about what's coming before the board.
You can't.
Under the Open Meetings Act, the only time we can discuss it is in front of the camera, in front of the microphones, and in front of the people. If we think something's goofy, believe it, we don't sit here and go, wow, that sounds wonderful. We say it's goofy.
Well, we've seen a lot of goofy stuff going down in the government.
It has to come in front of us, and it has to be an open discussion. So thank you for your comments.
No problem.
All right, anything? Yes, ma'am.
Just one comment. I'm Becky Yamamoto. I'm a resident of Westmont for 15 years, and my husband is in the back, Masamichi Yamamoto. We've been regular customers at Brood Awakening, and we're really good. We've gotten to know Sylvia over the years, and Craig. We've gotten to be friends, and I feel, you know, strongly that I want her to stay in business as long as she can, you know, and we have this as a retirement, you know, but I was very surprised about the news about the coffee shop that wants to come in, and I'm hopefully, you know, but you'll listen to both sides, but hopefully that you'll know what to make the right decision.
We do, and thank you. And anybody who wants to come into Westmont, we want them to come before us and talk about it.
Becky, what was your address?
Oh, 30 South Washington in Westmont.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If nothing else, then, do we need a motion tonight to move it to the next set of meetings?
No, we'll just put it on the agenda for Monday as a motion to postpone this. So it's clear to the public.
Would it go to the next committee of the whole or to the next voting meeting? So the next committee of the whole.
Well, we have some more things to discuss, so next committee of the whole.
So that would be the 28th?
Right. And if we don't have all the answers that we need, can we do it as a
Conception.
to move it again, like if we approve the consent agenda, can we put it as a consent to move it again until we have all of these items in front of us that we can?
Yeah, and just so we're clear, the two items I think that you're looking for answers for are fair market value for rent, for retail space in the downtown area.
Plus utilities.
Which would also include perhaps what other coffee shops are paying within commuter stations in other towns, if we can identify that. And then to the sanitary sewer connection issue.
And I do think Mr. Shelton raised a good question. Ms. Malik, if you can talk, find out more information about the ADA, whether, you know, just coming down and taking orders, and because in the winter when there's 300 people crammed in there like lemmings, it's going to be a little hard to come out and take orders. And
we'd be happy to do that. Part of the onus is on the Ryans to figure out what exactly that system is, and we would probably, just as a safety, want to bring that back to Mr. Gamble at the state and make sure it's still passed muster.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody who showed up for that. Your input is very important to us as the board. Next item under new business, number 4, 105 East Ogden Avenue, Pet Supplies Plus, special use request, variation requests, and site and landscaping approval. Board to consider ordinances approving the following requests from Pet Supplies Plus. 1, special use permit request to operate a pet shop in the B2 General Business District. Number 2, zoning code variance request to permit the construction of a pet store, which encroaches into the required 100 feet separation from a residence district. Number 3, zoning code variance request to increase the number of allowable signs from 1 to 2. 4, site and landscaping plan approval. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. My name is Alan Morris, and I am with Legacy Mulder. We're general contractors, and we represent Virginia Parole tonight, who is the owner and operator of Pet Supply Plus in Westmont for the last 19 years on Ogden Avenue, just west of Cass Avenue on the south side of the street. Ms. Parole desires to develop and own her own building. She's made an offer on the former Fuller's car wash. That offer's been accepted, so she's under contract, and with the board's approval, would intend to move forward and close on that property and start construction immediately this year for a Thanksgiving to 1st of December opening. She's excited by the opportunity to have this new building in Westmont, and looks forward to continuing the relationship with the village.
Tell me there's not another pet store nearby.
No, there's another vacant parcel. There's the next door.
It's the one that's actually on the other side.
Yeah, I know where it is. It's an eyesore. I'm glad it's going.
Is the proposed property going to be anything like the standalone store like down on Jane's in Woodridge?
You know,
Supplies Plus built a store that. So is there like corporate approval that has to be done?
She has secured all of the corporate approval, so she is a franchisee, has been for the last 19 years. And the design that's been presented to staff and the Planning and Zoning Committee represents a consensus by the franchisor that has to also review and sign off on that design.
It looks really attractive.
Well, she's a caring lady. She's very sincere about wanting to do the right thing in the village.
What about, I have to ask you some questions.
Please do.
I'm looking at the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be that yellow brick of which I am so not fond of?
I'm not familiar with the yellow brick you don't care for, but Virginia's appetite is more of a white or off-white. It is not yellow, and
This is a rendering that in a second will be on display around the room. It's an off-white masonry.
So it's a precast?
It's a concrete masonry material.
Right, it comes in panels?
No, this will be the architects asked for a 4-inch by 16-inch wide material, so it would be put up by a bricklayer.
There we go.
Interesting.
It's really an attractive building.
There's another location, and I think it's Naperville on Ogden Avenue, that is relatively new and would be comparable.
Now, I know her current location is in a strip mall.
Yes.
But there's like 5 million different neon color, huge paper signs in every window.
We have that on Cass Avenue.
We would like to get rid of that type of thing.
I
Is
agree.
that something that she plans to continue in the new store?
I've got to be careful about not answering for her on that issue. She has pushed us on the design to keep the store as open and glass-filled as possible, and so the glass runs from the floor to the head of the awning. The scale of the building is brought down because of the awnings, adds distinction to the building, and there's a series of outdoor lights over each of the awnings so that it becomes an attractive color image in the evening.
Yeah.
We do, and Shannon, you can touch on this, we do have restrictions as far as the amount of glass space that can be covered with signage or other.
Right, so by right, the Virginia would be able to cover, I think it's up to 40% of the surface area of the windows. That's considered an exemption in the sign code, so unless we had addressed that separately, they could go up to that percentage.
Right. We might end up having to address it because like Standard Market with their new concept and all the windows, and I think it'd be a great addition. Fuller's is
It's an eyesore.
outlived its useful life. So we're very cognizant of this issue of paper signs, and we're kind of being pushed, and we might end up having to do an amendment. But that's for another day.
But this is a special use, so you can provide for a more strict percentage of paper covering the window. That's up to you. I think that would be a reasonable condition attached to a special use if you want to do
Well,
that.
I think so too. I think 10% would be.
There's one in Wheaton, Pet Supplies Plus. I shop there all the time. I love it, but their windows are covered with paper, and I don't think we can.
I just think with the caliber of the businesses and the buildings we have up there, this would just be a huge detraction with the amount of signs.
Yeah. So do we want to make a limitation below the 40% since special use? Do we want to say no paper signage? Do we want to limit it to 10%?
You got to
or
give
less?
them the ability to do some, I think, for sales or specials or things, but paint their windows with it, no, I don't like that. I think it's such a nice building, the paper's
I know,
gonna
it
make
will.
look-
It would really not look good with
No.
green neon things. So, any suggestions?
Can I make a suggestion also? If you don't come up with a percentage tonight, or if you want to come up with a recommendation, perhaps Shannon and the applicant can talk and figure out if 10% is allowed, for example, what would that allow in the window?
Yeah, like visual, so we can kind of get a visual of it too.
Rendering of it, where it's like,
Yeah, because I mean, we don't want to stifle their advertising ability either.
What's the, okay, how far is the zoning code variance request, which is intended to encroach upon the required 100 feet separation from a residence district?
We can put
How
this
far are
one
we
up.
encroaching?
It's in the minutes from.
87. It's an 87-foot setback, so it's a deviation of 13 feet.
Is the current car wash building within the, is there a
I don't have a
variation
plat.
there, or are they 100 feet?
We have the plat.
All right.
There also is an intent to comply with the 6-foot fence requirement along the rear property line, so, okay.
It's a little difficult to read, Trustee Emery, but it appears that it's much closer.
By the way, Shannon, unless I'm misreading, the dimension that's in the packet is 95 feet versus the 100-foot requirement?
Okay, so they're at 95
Yeah.
right now?
Yes. And I don't know if we can catch a dimension on Fuller's.
I'm unable to read it.
The one question that I do have is, you'll have to forgive me, because some of these renderings, by the time you fit them on
Yeah.
1.5 by 11 down from, architectural size, where are the semis going to, or panel trucks, going to come in and your loading dock? Is that between the rear of the building and the residences?
Yes, she receives 3 trucks a week from a semi-trailer truck, 45 feet long, so not the long over the road 65-foot. We did a series of truck turning movement studies to demonstrate that a truck could pull straight into the site, come to the back, and then maneuver back to the rear service store, and then pull out onto Ogden. So there is an absolute intent to comply with not using the free lane in the middle of Ogden Avenue as a truck storage.
Well, the other thing is that, can we put in there a restriction that the trucks deliver within business hours and not in the middle of the night?
You certainly can. Lots of trucks deliver slightly outside of business hours, but still aren't overnight.
Yeah, because I don't want the residents having to hear, you know, backup beepers or anything like that past probably 9 o'clock at night.
I believe that one of the deliveries that she gets is around 6 to 6:30 in the morning. So I do want to indicate that there is a morning delivery that might be defined as before regular business hours.
Pretty standard, so.
I think that's reasonable.
And especially if that's only
When you
once
live
a
by
week.
Ogden Avenue, you expect to hear some noise.
Yeah, but still, the other thing is it's not like a grocery store like
Right.
Jewel where they are running
24/7.
Right, yeah, no, it is not the load that you find behind a grocery store with all the various vendors making
Right.
their bread and soda.
Actually, this new building looks as though it's laid out much better than the one you have now for deliveries and pickups.
There is an advantage to
This is
this
much
layout. We've
better.
worked awfully hard on this one. The challenge for lots on Ogden Avenue and Westmont is that they tend to be a little bit more shallow. And so there's been a lot of work being able, to get this to work.
Okay, then we will ask that there not be deliveries prior to 6 a.m. and after 10 p.m.,
Okay,
nor after 10 p.m., okay?
great.
Any questions about the site and landscaping plan or anything else?
No, I'm excited.
Yeah, it looks great.
We shop
Thank you.
there. I mean,
Good.
Yeah.
Well, she's excited
everybody's
also.
priced.
Baxter loves that store.
Been nice.
So Bob.
We can't let Sylvie in because she just tries to eat all her way through it, so. All right, so that'll be up on Monday for a vote. And Ms. Malik?
I just wanted to commend the petitioner and Mr. Morris for their never hesitating to listen to staff's review comments, address them every step of the way. They've certainly been a pleasure to work with, and the plan that you have before you, there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on both sides to get it to where it is, and we appreciate that working relationship.
Likewise, you should know that the staff, since January, when Ms. Parole made her due diligence and made the offer in February, she's been absolutely delighted with the cooperation that this village has offered to her. It's reinforced her good feeling of being a businessman in Westmont for the last 19 years.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any comments from the public? Thank you. It'll be
Thanks
up
very
Monday
much.
night. And if you do experience frustration, try a rawhide. They work.
No, it's been very pleasant. It's normal kind of detail.
Okay. Number 5, under new business, 609 North Cass Avenue, Circle K Shell, zoning code variance requests. Board to consider ordinances approving requests for the following zoning code variances on behalf of Circle K Shell and Corporate Identity Solutions. 1, variance to increase the number of allowable signs. 2, variance to increase the maximum gross square footage of signage. Hello.
Hi.
Didn't we see Circle K here a few months ago about this?
I'm not sure if you saw them a few months ago. We do mostly Circle K, so I don't know if that would have been me or not.
We didn't see her. We saw Circle K coming in for their subdivision plat. They were split off from the rest of the Jewel property.
Oh, okay. I thought they were here for signage too, but okay.
Oh, hi, I'm here for the signs. Anna Foote, Corporate Identification Solutions. We're located at 5563 North Elston in Chicago. The sign package that I am proposing today is, I don't know if this is going to take a minute.
It'll come up.
It'll come up.
Okay, there we go. This is the elevation of the gas canopy. We're requesting for 3 pectins, one on the south side, one on the east, and one on the west side, to cover the Ogden, Cass, and then the Jewel area traffic right there for advertisement for the Shell gasoline product. This is what each fascia would look like, where they're located. The pectins themselves are the only thing that illuminate on that, so it's not bright light going on. In the new RVIE elevations, the red bar that's on it illuminates back onto the yellow, just showing about an inch of coloring so that you don't get the glare off of the canopy during the evening. As for the building, when I was here with the Planning Commission, they asked about maintaining the awning, which we did go through with keeping the awning, the Circle K identification for their responsibility of the building portion of the lot, and a spanner board that we made smaller and moved to the side so that we could keep the awning located just to the right of the Circle K there, which we were looking at the middle section, confuses it with the Red Roof Inn Pizza, we thought, if we put some advertisement in between the two businesses, which is why we're also putting it towards the right. The tenant space in the larger sign that will show the Circle K and Shell area, and it's displayed how it will be right there. It'll be shared tenant space. And then just a revision to what was the Jewel Express Home Run Inn monument so that it contains all the Home Run Inn, the Circle K and Shell logos, and along with reusing the LED gas price signs that are already there.
Now, when you say the spanner board, is that an electronic moving sign?
No, it's actually just a metal frame that they could put in, let's say, monthly advertisement, a Polar Pop special, or whatever else might be on sale there if they had firewood or ice for some reason based on the season.
Okay, and the existing signs where it is now at Jewel Express, basically the same stuff, only just changing the corporate logos.
You're changing over the corporate logos and then branding the certain areas of the space with who would be responsible mainly for the revenues and property of that sort.
Is the total square footage the same as presented to planning and zoning, or did you make a modification since planning and zoning to reduce that?
Well, the only reduction, the way that we were seeing this when we first went in is based on what Jewel Express was allowed. So the pectins that are on the gas canopies, those Jewel Express words that are on there, the aluminum routed area that they take up are like 96 square foot a piece. The logos for the pectins are only 15.5 square feet. The Circle K building emblem is about 35 square feet less than the Jewel Express channel letter sets that were up there. The monument that is there currently, it's not really taking up any more advertisement that's already there.
I'm sorry. I'm just asking because of the ordinance, and Jill, maybe you can help me.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
originally, they were exceeding what's allowed by code by 124.5 feet, and that's written into the ordinance now, and I thought you mentioned that you slightly modified this.
We did move something and make the size, but that wasn't
It's slightly smaller, and we can get that exact information to you. Yes. Okay. Yeah, but it's not more than what was published, so. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Jill, if you remember when it was before planning and zoning, I see that it was not unanimous finding of fact. What did somebody on planning and zoning not agree with the findings? Do you know?
The chairman did not agree with criteria number 1, that there are 3 users of the property and the applicant cannot adequately identify these users and yield a reasonable return. And so I think it was just that he felt that the users could be identified.
Okay.
But it was just that one, it was just criteria number 1.
Okay. Thanks. Board questions, comments? Anybody from the public? Okay, thanks. It'll be up on the agenda on Monday. Thank you. Number 6, zoning code text amendment. Board to consider an ordinance approving a text amendment to the zoning code to allow 6-foot solid fences in the front yard and side yard adjoining a street under certain circumstances. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I am presenting a text amendment proposal to allow residents with corner lots the opportunity to screen more of their yards with solid fences. The text amendment reads that fences of no more than 6 feet in height would be permitted within a side yard adjoining a street if the fence is located behind the structure and does not create any line of sight issues or adverse impact upon adjacent neighbors as determined by staff. If approved, these fences would be permitted administratively and would reduce the need for a variation. The Planning and Zoning Commission was very supportive and did not note any concerns. These fences would only be permitted if a home was built prior to a newer setback requirement, and the fence would then extend behind that structure. I'm going to show a few examples to illustrate and help visualize. Basically, this house is located on a corner, and their side yard setback is in the red. So this would allow them about this much area to screen with a fence. And this text amendment would allow a new fence to be built behind the structure and give them a little bit more of a backyard on a corner lot. So that was our intention. Staff would review these applications for adequate clearance and line of sight issues. And we also currently have 2 pending applications that would be eligible for this text amendment if it were to be approved.
Now, would this allow 6-foot fences on corner lots to go right up, like along the sidewalk, say?
No, it would only be up to where the house is. I'll show a couple other examples too. Like in this instance, this is the required setback in the red, and they would be allowed to go up to the yellow up here. And again, staff would review it to make sure there weren't any light of sight issues. We have a corner vision triangle that we would use just to make sure there weren't any issues. Like in this case, there's a public alley that goes back here, so we'd make sure that it didn't encroach upon the alley.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a non-conforming side yard setback adjoining a street with the house is only, for whatever reason, the side yard 6 feet off the property line, then the fence could be as close as 6 feet. Whereas a house that conformed with the side yard setback of 35 feet, their fence would have to be 35 feet off.
Yes, technically, yeah. Because
There's some disparity there
Mhm.
based on where the house is located. And you've got a lot of old houses that have obviously different setbacks.
Right. We wrote it with the intention of lining up with an existing house that was built non-conforming, prior to the change in ordinance.
So you still may get variances because someone may say, well, you allowed it for this house just because that is when they were built. Something to consider.
I'm a little more comfortable coming in on a case-by-case for a variance to put up such a fence than putting an ordinance in effect allowing it. Because I can only imagine a bunch of corner lots with these 6-foot solid fences looking pretty institutional-like in my mind. My brain might be fried, but I can't imagine doing it as an overall ordinance.
How many requests are we getting?
I've gotten several calls, I would say 3 to 4 calls this summer, and then 2 requests that are pending.
But over the years, I remember many requests
We've had a
come
lot
in,
of these.
and they've always been approved.
No.
There have been some discussions. One is the line of sight preserved, particularly when they back up to an alley, as Jill mentioned. And the other was what's the material, and is it consistent with fences? There have been, I remember comments about chain link fences someone wants to put up, and board members saying, I'd prefer you have board on board or something. But this would allow solid fences, right?
Yes.
Yes. One of the things that we've noticed over the years is that many times when we receive a fence permit application and the situation comes up, the setback is typically on a corner, and especially the older areas of town, something more like 15 to 25 feet. So as we were discussing at the staff level what language to bring before you, we did talk about, should it be a number, should it be a set number, but there were other variables to take into consideration. So, that's something that we'd be happy to possibly put back on the table if there's not a comfort level with allowing it up to the building setback in any case. That might be another alternative.
What think ye?
Well, actually, I think I'm going to have to back away from this one because I sit on a corner lot. 55th
Right,
and
and you
Washington.
actually do need a 12-foot fence for the kangaroos.
I can't say one way or another on this
Okay.
one. I have to back out of this one.
Okay. Yes, he
Directly affect me because of what I'm
has
thinking of doing.
2 kangaroos that can jump the current fence, so.
Well, and I think staff would come and tell us if there was an issue.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
We trust that you would. Okay.
Can I make one comment about the language of the ordinance? And I'm sorry I missed the planning and zoning meeting a couple weeks ago. The 6 feet fence would be allowable as stated, provided there's not any line of sight issues. And then it says, or adverse impact upon adjacent neighbors as determined by staff. Of course, I trust staff in making that determination, but I have a problem with that language as written because there's no identifiable criteria. And when it comes up to the board, certainly there's case law out there that says what an adverse impact could be and what's considered, and your determination as legislators is given deference as long as it's not arbitrary and capricious. But for staff to do it, I'd rather just eliminate that language unless you can come up with identifiable criteria what constitutes, and I'll be happy to help you, what constitutes an adverse impact.
There was only one situation that came to mind when we were talking about this, and this would be the situation where the new fence would actually be in the front yard setback of an adjacent neighbor. So the proposed fence could potentially be taller than what would be permitted for the neighboring property. Now, it may not occur. That it was just something that we were concerned about, and that's why that comment was entered.
Do the neighbors get notified on this too?
Well, they do now if there's a variance. Under this new language, no, the people, it's allowed by right.
Yeah, we were trying to leave it a little bit open in case, as what Trustee Emery brought up, in case the house was built, 5 feet away from the sidewalk. I mean, right now we're seeing them around the 15 to 25 foot range, but.
I'm not trying to cause difficulty, but I've seen enough ordinances stricken down by courts because they have language like this in it where there's full discretion given to staff and no identifiable criteria to guide staff in making the determination. So if you want to come up with 3 to 5 points that you would consider.
Sure, we can come up with some criteria and work with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. So should we, would that be by Monday, or do we need to postpone it?
We can do it by Monday, right?
What's that?
We can come up with that by Monday.
It's up to you.
We'll work on it for Monday.
I'm around.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on that? Anything from the public? Okay.
Thank you.
Number 7, 389 North Cass Avenue, ComEd variance request. Board to consider an ordinance granting a zoning code variance to ComEd to allow an increased fence height in an R4 residential district. Hello.
Good evening. My name's John O'Halloran from ComEd.
I was just going to introduce him, but he did it himself, so we're good.
Okay.
And I'm joined by a number of my colleagues here tonight. Jose Andrade from our External Affairs Organization, Bill Frederick from our Engineering Organization, Karen Richardson, Dan Schick from our Engineering and Project Management Organization.
So just by way of background, I'm sure everyone has the general information, but for those that are watching at home, ComEd went through some facilities improvements over the last several months, which resulted in the installation of additional power poles at the substation property at this location. About 5 or 6 years ago, as part of a project to clean up that substation and reduce some of the visual impact to their surrounding neighbors, the utility installed a fence behind the building to conceal the substation station and all of the power pole equipment.
Was that done with a variance?
It was not, and that's what brings us here today, part of what brings us here today. When the new power poles were installed, we had reached out to ComEd and indicated that we would like to work together to try to mitigate, again, what that visual impact would be. Through that review of the previous fence installation, it was discovered that there was no variance granted. So what's before you today is to retroactively address the fence height for the entire project area.
So basically, what you want to do is grandfather in the existing 10-foot cedar fence, but move the one wall of it, which runs parallel with Cass, further out towards Cass to cover the new poles.
I have an image to help. So here's the substation, the structure, then the building, cast to help orient you.
Right.
And then the fence line, it shows as a dotted line here, but it looks pretty solid on the monitors. So everywhere you see this rectangular shape is where they propose to install. The new fence would be from beyond the front of the building towards cast. The existing is behind the building to the east.
So how many feet from cast would the fence be?
It was 26 feet. So Jill, you may want to come to the podium. She did some demonstrative drives to try to ensure that there wouldn't be any line of sight issues with the new installation.
Right. As you can see on the monitor, the fence would not enclose the 2 poles that are closest to Melrose. So if you take...
And how close are they to Melrose, those 2?
They are... That's not shown on the drawing.
When you drive by, it looks like it's right there, but...
Yeah, that's the picture that I'm going to... Yeah. So the picture that I'm showing here, you can see Melrose, and you can see that this pole would not be enclosed, that they would come up around here and then come back. And so you'd be able to pull all the way up to the intersection and still have clear visibility.
How did this, how was this allowed to exist without any village approval of a 10-foot fence that's there now?
I wasn't involved in that process. I can't speak to it. It was around possibly just before my time, but I wasn't involved in the variance, or the permitting process. So I apologize. I don't know the answer to that.
They just did it.
Well, I know there was quite a bit of collaboration between the village and the utility to work together to try to get the original fence up. So it wasn't that the community wasn't aware that the work was going to take place. I'm just not sure what happened with why there wasn't a variance requested at the time.
Wasn't this the issue where there was thefts over there and they put the fence in to help prevent that?
Right, and one of the issues that's come up is that the 10-foot fence, especially along Cass, that it gives the police department no opportunity to see what's going on behind there. Enclosing anything in a solid 10-foot fence wall, especially knowing that there have been problems with kids jumping it and all that, where there wasn't one either chain link or one accessible side to it that the police could keep an eye on, it has been a question raised in the past. I know.
I don't want to throw Chief Mulhern under the bus, but I don't know if we have any history or record of complaints in that area since the fence went up around 2006.
I don't know. I have to look. I have no.
Now, who's complaining about looking at the poles?
Everybody?
I think it looks terrible.
It does.
Right.
It should be underground. I don't know why, with technology, it has to be that way.
We did have a neighbor come out during the public hearing to also comment to that effect. Actually, a couple of neighbors.
You know, I mean, because even with this picture, the 10-foot fence is kind of like, putting anklets on a gorilla.
It's hiding the bottom part.
There isn't really hiding much of anything.
If this was any other community surrounding us, this would have never allowed to happen.
Oh, I don't know about that.
You wouldn't see this in Oak Brook, you wouldn't see this in Hinsdale or Clareton Hills. There would have never happened. It happens
Why
here.
Why can't that be underground?
What, to allow the facility here in the first place?
No, well, we were stuck with that. There's nothing we can do, but I can't imagine that pole farm out there.
Why does it have to be
in any other community but us?
Why can't it be underground?
The facility itself obviously is above ground. The feeds are all above ground, come in above ground on the existing poles. The feeders run out overhead. So to engineer an underground substation, number one would be just the engineering cost would be extreme, and the installation cost would be astronomical.
What was the reason for the poles in the first place?
The poles hold a number of switches that operate to sectionalize the load. Mm-hmm. We took out some of the older facilities in the existing substation, and in order to give the clearances for operations and safety with the switches, they had to be pole mounted.
So the switches that were inside there originally, let's say were worn out, shot, and they weren't taken and put in somewhere else instead, and this is what we were left with?
Right, there was no like-for-like replacement of the old switches within the station in that.
Were the switches that were in there used anywhere else, or were they scrapped?
I don't know. I'd have to find out. I imagine they were scrapped due to the age. The reason we were getting rid of them was for the age.
Okay.
Shannon, do you happen to know, that's R4 district, correct?
Yes.
John's checking, but do you happen to know offhand? If you don't, that's fine. None of us memorized what the height restriction is in R4?
The R4 principal structure, I think, was
42?
45?
This isn't a principal structure.
No, but I don't think we regulate the height. I'm sorry, I don't think we regulate the height of the utility pole.
Well,
Because they're all over town in every district.
No. This is different.
well, one of the issues, let's first talk about the underlying use, and that is a utility use allowed in the R4 district? And the answer is yes, if a special use permit is granted. Now, this use predates probably our zoning ordinance.
Probably all of our lives.
Yeah.
We believe the building
20s or
dates from the
30s.
20s.
So it's a legal non-conforming use. That legal non-conforming use may not be expanded. If they can do routine maintenance, et cetera. They can move out switches from a pole and put new switches in. But for them to come in and put in new poles, which is essentially expanding of a legal non-conforming use, is not allowed. For them to expand the building is not allowed. If they want to do that, they'd have to come in for a special use permit. Now, whether there's actually been oversight of that or whether they've come in for permits when they've done work in the past and anyone caught this, I don't know. It's never really come before the board to my recollection.
Well, I think
Planning and zoning.
Well, I think the polls are new enough that we can say no one has rested on their laurels and ignored it. We need to take a look at whether it conforms to the special use.
Weren't we told originally this was temporary? The poles were going to be temporary and there were going to be something done about it, then all of a sudden
I
it
believe
wasn't temporary?
there was a discussion like that, but there certainly wasn't anything to come in and install them permanently, let's put it that way. So what we need to do is we need to check our books and records and see what the conditions were of the special use permit. Because as much as we all like our electricity, nobody gets a free rein on a special use permit. Thus the nature of the beast.
And 45 feet is the height of non-residential buildings and structures. So I don't know what the pole, it's structures, and a pole's a structure, so I don't know what the pole height is.
Do you know the heights offhand?
Well, that little fence is 10. And so they're probably at 44 and a half, I'll bet you.
Okay, and then, of course, there's setback issues and setback to look at, but
Right.
I don't know where this stands as far as that goes, but.
One, I think we need to look at that, make sure that everything's in compliance, or at least not violating a special use permit. Second of all, where Trustee Seneca and I live, someone came up with a brilliant idea that instead of a privacy fence, they wanted to plant arborvitaes, which grow to 40 feet tall. We turned that request down. However, it's kind of nice information to know that arborvitaes grow to 40 feet tall.
Well, we won't be alive to see it.
It won't be in our list, actually. They actually grow as fast as cedars. So just a thought, if someone doesn't want to look at a 10-foot fence.
Shannon, are
with
they in the setback? What is this?
The
poles.
Okay.
Do they meet the
have
setback
a
restriction?
26-foot setback from the curb line. Do you have a diagram showing?
And what is it supposed to be?
For if this were a building in R4?
Yeah, any other structure.
Minimum yards. Which yard are we talking about? The
Cass or Melrose, either one. I'm just curious as
Front
to.
or corner side yard for R4. It depends on the type of structure.
Non-residential uses are for 25 feet for front and side yards adjoining a street.
So if they're 26 feet on cast, they're fine in that regard, even though it looks like if a car ran off the road, they'd take them down, you know?
Okay,
I mean,
but let's throw this one out on the table, too. How much space do you have to the south of that parcel that was open that these poles could have been put up on the other side instead of the Cass Avenue side?
Can you speak to the siting as to why?
You own the parcel to the south?
You own the parcel to the south?
Yeah, we do own the parcel to the south. That's an engineering type question, just based on the direction of the feeds coming in. They look at the shortest distance of wire for
Cost instead of aesthetics.
cost,
Okay.
safety's sake,
aesthetics,
that
okay.
type of thing.
That's all right, all right.
Makes that property across the street that's for sale unsaleable.
I wouldn't buy it.
How about for
There's two posts in
$200?
front of it.
We'll talk. Perhaps.
Well,
Methinks there's something that went wrong here.
we have some work to do here. I think that, one, we need to know whether everything's copacetic with the special use.
Yeah, definitely.
Two, I'd like to see alternates if everything is, and there's nothing we can do about the pole farm. And I'm not kidding about the aesthetics of, Attorney Zimnick pointed out to me that blue spruces grow very quickly to 80 feet. And I'm not kidding about putting a tree line in there, rather than this gnarly looking 10-foot fence.
Or a fence with a tree in front of it.
We could do that.
Because then you've got some,
Security buffer.
well, you're hiding some of it until the trees grow.
Yeah.
At least. It's only partially ugly.
I would like to postpone this to the next set of meetings so that we can, and not to the voting meeting, the next committee of the whole, so that we can go over exactly whether there is something else that could have been done, should not have been done, because I'm not comfortable just going, oh, well. That site, as it sits now, is a disaster.
It's not very welcoming coming into the community.
Right, and it keeps getting worse. Every time we turn around, we take 5 steps forward in technology, and ComEd comes in and goes, we have no plans for the future, everything's going to be 45 feet high. It's very disheartening.
Can I ask a question? Going back to the original request, which was for a fence, not only was it to allow an extension of the existing fence, but Shannon, was it also to kind of retroactively grant the variance for the existing
Correct.
fence that's there? And it's worded in such a way, and it was presented, I think, at Planning and Zoning to accommodate that. I want to make sure that was clear, because the ordinance isn't written that way right now. Okay.
We do want to thank Shannon and Jill for their help with this and for representing us back in the meeting that occurred on the 9th. There was a miscommunication on our side. We didn't attend. Thanks for your time tonight.
So can we postpone it?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I just ask one more question? Sure. What is the end result for that building? The way it looks now, in the pole farm. What is the end result, Commonwealth Edison, as planned for it? Is it going to stay that way forever?
Stay that way for at least the next 5 years on our planning horizon.
And get bigger?
All depending on
More
load
poles?
growth and
Not more poles, though.
equipment needs. We look at it annually to see what the what
Can we limit the number of poles?
Well, it's somewhat problematic because, again, it's an existing building. So currently, they can't expand the number of poles. Going back in time, I think we'd have to do some research. We may never know the answer. How many poles were there when the zoning ordinance was created? How many have been added? What was the village's knowledge of those poles being added? Did the village consent or impliedly consent to this expansion? Do you want to say, okay, we're drawing the line in the sand now and look forward? You know, I think
We really have
need to
to
do some
look back
investigation.
first.
Check it out.
It very well may be that we realize our hands are kind of tied. You can't impose a lot of conditions, and either you try and work with ComEd and you make it clear by writing to them that, you know, other than normal repair and maintenance, no expansion, no new poles unless they're replacing an well, they can't even replace an existing pole because they're legal non-conforming without coming in for a special use for utility and a variance.
I'm a little surprised that a company of this size didn't do some homework before starting all this. It scares me.
Well, they did. They did it for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, did you not know you were a legal non-conforming use? Did you not know that there were variances required and things? I think that's a fair question.
Good evening. My name is Bill Frederick. I'm one of the engineers for ComEd, and I believe we had given Jill a permit that we had actually brought to the village to get approval for the poles that were installed. So, I mean, I'm a little confused around.
What happened to it?
Yeah, we didn't just do this without the village's
Right.
knowledge and just go out there and plant this pole farm.
There was an engineering permit that was submitted, so it's not that they commenced the work without a permit.
Okay.
Okay, but I guess the question is,
So the permit was issued without deciding whether it was in conforming use?
right, going ahead, so whether or not, you know, as Trustee Emery said, whether or not it was conforming or non-conforming.
Right, the permit.
But it was a contingent permit on this? Was there any kind of parameters set on this permit for them to do or not do?
No, in fact, the permit was issued and the work was completed, and at that point, we started to get the complaints. It was reviewed as an engineering permit when it really should have been reviewed as a zoning permit.
Could we have a copy of the permit and the paper trail that went with
Certainly.
it, please?
Yep.
And then were we notified of what they were going to do there? On the permit, did it say we're going to put up 15 poles?
There was a diagram exhibit along with the permit form.
So we'll get that part too.
Good.
Cool.
Okay, we're going to postpone it. Anybody
Figure out
from the
what we have
public?
to do.
Anybody else?
Nope, done.
Okay. Further look. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 8, Class 4 liquor license. Canyons Burger Company. Board to consider an ordinance increasing the number of available Class 4 liquor licenses by 1 to accommodate a liquor license request from WYCB Inc., Westmont Yard Canyons Burger Inc., doing business as Canyons Burger Company, located, nice to see you, located at 243 West 63rd.
We'll share.
Thank you. With me tonight is Mr. Bill Gust, owner of Westmont Yard and franchisee of Canyons Burger Company.
And we are always glad to see you.
Yeah, hello, how you doing?
You're always so.
We are so glad to see you.
And we could use that tonight.
Yeah, this
Yes.
one's been So, time to make everyone hungry. So, at the beginning, we can turn it over to Mr. Gust to talk about the new restaurant, and as I understand, it'll be the first in Illinois and sixth in the country, I believe.
No, we're sharing. We're good. We're sharing. Keep it. Okay. Thank you.
It's coming before we okayed it. Look at that. That's optimism.
Okay. Oh, so it's over to me? Okay. So I thought I'd just give you a little background on the restaurant, since it's been a while since I've been here, and we've talked a bit in the past. So just a couple of architectural things just to show you where it is. These are a little difficult, but this is Westmont Yard where the fields are, the parking. So this is 63rd Street over here. We're talking about the retail area in the far west part of the retail area is where we're going to put it. So it's a pretty cool place to put it, just because we've got access for the, the food to come in and out right there, and the trash is right there, and the kitchen will be in the back. So I'm going to put up just one last kind of busy diagram. We might not get too much out of that, but that's just the layout of it. So this is a quick service restaurant. You're going to walk in the doors. This is, coming from the parking lot by 63rd. These are the tables here. And so you walk in and you order your burger over here. You get your burger and you can take it to the table. So it's quick service. It's like a Five Guys or Meatheads or a Smash Burger, along those lines. I'm a little worried that maybe I made a mistake and should have done a Five Guys, as I go by Ogden all the time, and that place is packed.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I went in there and I like this concept better. It fit better. It's a broader menu. It's got a kids menu. It's more of an outdoor theme, so I felt like it fit more with Westmont Yard and what we're trying to do. So that's just 30 seconds on it. And then this is just, you have, this may not fit, but that's okay, because you have this. What you can see is we'll be working with Shannon. Actually, we just submitted for the sign permit, so that's just a rendering of the sign permit. That shows you, it gives you an idea of the burger, the soft drink station. And then just on this one, you can see the front service counter, and this is kind of where the beer would be. So we're not talking about a major liquor operation here or anything. This is just a burger place where we're trying to serve beer along with it. And then this just gives you an idea of what the interior is.
I do have a request for you, Bill, though, but on the first page in the bottom right-hand corner.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, what's that bike?
Please don't put a bicycle on a pole in a restaurant frequented by kids.
Oh, okay. Well, that is part of their
that is just,
gig.
too tempting.
Yeah, I think it's out of their reach.
Nothing is.
Out of their reach. All right. Okay.
This looks awesome, Bill.
I'll have to
really
fight
cool.
the franchisor on that, because they
Just make sure it's high enough that nobody can get to it.
So this is for beer and wine, correct?
Yes, correct.
Cool.
Right.
Is beer and/or wine, but more importantly, beer, going to be carried from Canyons into the soccer facility?
No, correct. It will not be.
This
carried.
was an issue that was very near and dear to the
Yes.
liquor commissioner, the mayor, and the mayor expressed to me in very no uncertain terms that there is a definite barrier between the restaurant concept and Westmont Yard.
Yes.
And Mr. Gus and I have talked a lot about that and how we're going to regulate that, and we're very clear on beer not moving from one side to the other.
Because, soccer dads are one thing, soccer moms and beer, no.
Yes, and because we originally tried to get it over at the Westmont Yard part, and then I pushed back on
What
it.
is is there a proximity problem with any, like, preschool, daycare, that type of thing with the liquor license?
No, because it's consumption on the premise. It's not packaged goods walking around. It's good.
Just checking. Thank you.
Bill, we have a stereo system in there.
Yes.
Now, I just have one recommendation. Personally, I think in a sport venue, this is an awesome thing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I've been waiting for something like this by my house since I lived here. I'm probably going to be one of your best customers. But I would ask the board, I don't know how this even would work, but given the location and where it's at, I think it's important to be able to play the games through the stereo system, through the speakers. It's just a personal thing of mine. I enjoy that when I go to.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I think at your location here is different than a restaurant, or just because of where you are. I think it'd be more inviting to have the games going. Plus, you got live action in the back.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. All right.
Just my opinion on it. I don't know how anybody else feels.
No, I agree.
You know what? I agree with that, and I know. Correct me, John. I think we have something on the books now where TVs have to have the volume down.
They're not allowed
So
to have.
what does that mean? Do we have to change that ordinance, or do we do just something special for this one?
That's not an ordinance
Okay.
on the books. That could have been a
Here it
special
comes.
condition imposed as part of a liquor license on a particular establishment.
Okay.
That you worried about it getting out of hand and turning into a crazy sports bar.
Okay, because every place I know in town keeps the volume off.
I know the tap
I go to
doesn't,
them all, yeah.
and they don't because they can't. But
I think that was our place down south on 63rd Street that we had problems with years ago.
Oh,
And I think
no.
also it may have been.
Neutral Zone did it.
Okay.
Yeah, it may have also been downtown, like, where do we have the beer garden?
Oh, Broad House.
Yeah, it's usually been a condition of any outdoor area.
Yeah. Okay.
John's
But I
correct.
agree. I like it when you can hear the game or see see it and listen to it.
It's mainly concerned with Tap House Grill, and Tap House Grill put the restriction that there'd be no sound, especially on the outside, and there was no TVs to the outside.
Yeah, outside, I
And
understand.
also, I believe, what was the establishment that just moved recently?
Brickyard?
Brickyard.
Brickyard, yes, the Brickyard also, the number of TV screens were regulated.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Are you planning on putting any tables out front on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Just so they know they can't take the liquor out there?
That's a concept that Bill and I have discussed, and perhaps down the line that might be expanded. I think he's
Unless
gonna
it's
wait till-
gated.
He's going to see how, yeah. If we do anything, it'd be something similar to, what's the one over here in Quincy?
Dolce.
Yeah, that's the concept that he'd be working off of.
Cool.
if
That would be
happens.
nice.
With it not being on a public sidewalk because it's private there.
So you're,
So it's
yeah,
a little easier to deal with.
yeah.
And this will
Nice.
also be on your front marquee and everything too. So you got the
is
advertising, so people on 63rd know they're there, besides just,
Oh, you mean that like it'll be on the
Yeah.
sign out front?
Yeah.
Yes, correct,
yeah,
yes.
okay, good.
I love this.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
So pass-through window too, you have. Can we talk about that?
No.
The window, there's a window so he can see onto the fields, so also thus hopefully preventing beer moving over. You can
So while you're sitting in the restaurant, you can watch the game.
Yeah, so you'd be able to see it, yeah.
So did you want the soccer game broadcasting, so it's like Chucky
Live footage would be
one?
cool, yeah.
I think that would be good.
That would be way cool.
Actual game going on.
That would be cool.
This is great, man. Keep opening up businesses in Westmont. You do a great job.
Oh, thanks, thank you so
Yes.
much. Thanks.
And contrary to some people's beliefs, you have brought a lot of business to
I
63rd
was
Street.
wondering if it was gonna
And
be-
where is that newspaper reporter tonight?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, what was that all about?
Yeah, that was an interesting way to have written the story. I don't know. You probably could have taken some different angles that were more positive.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you very much, thanks. All right.
Always good
Man,
to
good
see you,
luck.
Yeah,
and your
thank you.
enthusiasm that you bring.
Yes, we'll see you in there working and they're getting it all set up.
Yes.
Okay, number 9, reduction in the number of available massage establishment licenses. Board to consider an ordinance reducing the number of available massage establishment license by 1. All right, who quit?
Yeah, who closed? This is tobacco.
No one's going to hand my stuff to the board?
Oh, that's the second one, okay.
This is a housekeeping method, I'm sorry. This housekeeping issue. There was one liquor or massage establishment license that was going to possibly be issued a license, and in looking over current applications, that was never issued. What we wish to do is, as housekeeping, reduce it by 1 to make it only the number of licenses that are currently issued are currently in use, and not a vacant license just sitting out there. We do have one application which we have received and which we'll be doing a background on, but we still would like this to get to only, as with the original intent for this license, similar to the liquor licenses, only issue license that are currently in use.
Thank you, sir.
Sounds
Wait,
good.
don't go anywhere with your material. Anybody, anything else on that one?
Nope.
Anybody from the public? All right. Which should tie right into number 10, Class A tobacco license reduction.
That's my partner in crime.
Well, yeah, because I wanted you to introduce Deputy Chief Gunther, because
hand these off?
you didn't get much podium time tonight, Tom. I apologize.
Go sit back down.
I'll sit in my chair.
Board to consider an ordinance reducing the number of Class A tobacco licenses by 1, as there are no current applications for said license.
Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you, good job.
That is a
Nice job. Very nice job.
We wouldn't need a consent agenda.
If everybody was like that.
Number 11, engineering services agreement with Baxter and Woodman. Board to consider an ordinance authorizing an agreement for design engineering services regarding the installation of a new roofing system on the tower and south roof of the headquarters station. Is that police or fire?
It is fire headquarters.
Okay. In addition, the replacement of the tower condensing units with new units to be located on the lower south roof.
Correct.
Chief, okay, any questions?
We've had some leakage for several years, and, and we need the roof repaired, and the condenser units are originals, 20-plus years old. And so we need those.
No thought of going green, collecting the leaks and recycling it for fire?
Or putting it in bottles.
There are two separate issues with this location, the leaking roof and the issue with the air conditioning condensers that need to be relocated. And as far as the vendor, the engineering services, Baxter Woodman, you'll recognize them, and they did the engineering work for the roof replacement at the water plant.
Roofs are problematic. What kind of warranty are they providing?
Well, this is the engineering design
Oh, this is
services.
design, I'm sorry. So then they'll bid it out?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Cool.
Thank
Works for me.
New chief, new roof, new condensers. Yeah.
Life is good.
Miscellaneous. Number 12, finance ordinance number 3.
Waive the reading.
Number
Could I just
13.
ask one question on that? I'm sorry.
No
Spencer,
apology necessary.
Spencer, could you just explain about the impact fees, going back to the Is it the library and the park district?
It's a pass-through, isn't it? It's a pass-through, I think.
Yes, these are just the impact fees, so when new developments come in, if it's determined that they will cause an impact on other government entities, the developer will pay us, and then we'll pass those on to the different entities, in this case, the school district and the library. I believe there was an issue, and Shannon might be able to speak to it if there's any additional questions, but in this specific case, there was, the permit indicated one number of, was it number of bedrooms, Shannon? It indicated one thing on the initial permit, and then under subsequent review, it was determined to be different, and so you'll also see a portion of the impact fees that we brought in is also being paid back to the developer who initially paid them. They were overcharged initially.
Would they have been given to the district instead of the individual schools, or?
Well, yes, they are given to the district.
Okay.
Yeah. To the entity.
Spencer summed it up adequately. The developer indicated there were 3 bedrooms on the permit application, or actually the permit runner indicated there were 3 bedrooms on the permit application. The plan drawings showed otherwise. It's a 2-bedroom home. It's meant for empty nesters, and there is a den, which we know what sometimes happens with dens, but after reviewing the particulars, we felt comfortable with the 2-bedroom analysis.
Okay.
And I hope that we've kind of clarified some of that by having some stricter definitions what constitutes a bedroom to allow people to sleep in with closets and certain access issues and stuff. So they're not as easy to convert into bedrooms, at least legally, as
I
they
remember
once
that
were.
issue.
Yeah.
Any additional questions?
Thanks.
Nope.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Number 13, purchase orders. Any questions? Nope. Not having heard a request for an executive session this evening, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Scott.
Second, Nero?
Roll call, please.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Trustee Seneca?
Yes.
Nero?
Yes.
Trustee Emery?
Yes. We are adjourned. Good night.